All right. So we'd like to apologize to everybody worldwide. We were supposed to have a big episode out on May the 3rd. Got a little postponed with some industry happenings, but we've got some horsewomen again. 3 different interviews, but our third one's going to be the one that rocks it. We've got the wilder women. And in between, we've got a very unique horsewoman. But first, we've got a newcomer to the game, and her story's a little bit different. Nikki, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So you just finished a night over at Yonkers. You had a little holiday. What was it like, I guess, coming back, getting back into your schedule and the regime, and, I guess just ending your night?
Well, it was good. I will admit I missed the nice weather, but it was really nice to have a little moment with Uptown Funk finishing second.
Nice. So, the question is, where did you hear about the Horseman's Voice?
I honestly did not hear of it until you reached out to me through Mariana Monaco, who actually mentioned me to you. I've watched a few of your YouTube videos and liked it and decided to do it.
All right. So the question is, how do you start in the business? I mean, it's a really cool and unique story.
Well, I am first generation. I was pretty much just wandering around the Meadowlands paddock one night. I was a big fan of, drivers and stuff and watching races since I'm a little kid. And basically, I fell in love with it. Within, 2 weeks of meeting a trainer, I bought my first horse, Steady Pulse.
And from there, I mean, he was obviously your first driving win,
yes,
was it?
Yes.
So you've been all over the place with this horse, and you're a pretty powerful figure. And we've got a shot here of you standing next to a horse, when you're training. And for people that can look at a horse in a picture, you can tell how tall a horse is. Are you about, 4'11", 5 feet?
Exactly, 4'11".
Women in this industry, I'm going to say it, they're pretty powerful. And, judging from everything we're about to discuss in your pictures, you've only been in the business now, 6, 7 years? And look what you've done already.
Thank you, yes.
So let's talk about your first training win. Is it Calladay Road?
That was my first training win at Monticello, yes.
And you want to tell us about the horse? And what happened?
He was a 3-year-old trotter. He was super nice to be around. He didn't really have much speed, so I think I got lucky in there. I didn't have him for too long, but he definitely was a nice horse to be around and stuff. He was one of my favorites, actually.
And then from there, you obviously bought other horses. You want to talk about some of the other horses that you've had since then?
Yes. Well, truthfully, I haven't had many great ones, but recently I've had really nice ones. My stable is just starting to really come around with nicer horses. Obviously, we've talked about Steady Pulse. He's never going anywhere. That's my child. I have Jax to Open, who I've used in the amateurs. He's another one of my favorites. He's just the silliest little boy. I have Uptown Funk, who really has put my name out there, I feel like, and he's really been huge for my barn. And then last but of course not least, my best horse, the star of my stable, is Sting Like a BK.
So let's just talk about some of these horses, not to interrupt, but acquiring these horses, are you owning these themselves? Are you having a public stable? Let's talk about Uptown Funk. Uptown Funk you up. Let's talk about Uptown Funk.
I own Uptown Funk myself.
How'd you acquire him is the question.
I bought him off of somebody I was actually in the barn with. I really liked him. He was not racing too well, so I bought him for a price that really I was very happy with. I missed some time with him because he was having a little bit of issues. I corrected his issues the best I can, and I sent him out on the racetrack for the first time at Pocono. And he was huge. He was up by 3. He just had gotten beat at the wire. And from that night on, I said, this is a really nice horse. Actually, the first time I sat behind him in a training mile, I got off the bike and was like, this is a really fast horse.
So what makes Steady Pulse then your favorite? But is it because, he was your first driving win? Or, are you playing specials here or what?
Well, he's definitely not the fastest, and he's definitely not the money earner, but I think because he was my first horse that he'll always carry a very special place in my heart. He loves me. I love him. We have done it all together. He was like my first ride, my first drive, everything. First horse I was down as trainer on, my first horse I've owned.
What about Jacks to Open, shifting from steady pulse? I mean, what makes Jacks to Open special, and how did you acquire Jacks to Open?
I bought Jacks to Open. A funny story, actually. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a couple trotters, and he sent me a list, and I was like, yeah, I'm really not happy with any of these. None are jumping out to me. And then he said, well, I have one. He goes, but I really don't want to sell him because I like him. His name is Jacks to Open. And I knew the horse from when he was down here racing in the amateurs, and without even asking a price, anything, I said sold. The next day I went and picked him up. He's been also really nice for me. He's tailed off a little here. I'm just correcting a couple of issues he's having, but other than that, he's been really great for me too. He's the kindest horse to be around, and driving in the amateurs, when you're driving for yourself, you kind of need a horse with power, and he was that for me. Like, I drove a lot of bad horses trying to get my qualifying license and my P license, and he was kind of the one that made the judges take eye to me and know that I was comfortable and safe out there.
So your first training win at the Meds, was that with Better BB?
Yes, it was.
And you said that he set a lifetime mark. I mean, what was that like? I mean, you've been in the business not so long, and you're at the show and you won. I mean, what was the feeling winning your first race at the Meds?
It was really amazing. When he was up at the top of the stretch by 5, it was unreal. Like, it's nice to win every race you're in, no matter how far it's by or how close it's by. But to see me send a horse out on the racetrack and it set a lifetime mark and then win by 5, it was really special for me. And my owner was super happy with it too.
So now, you're talking about training, you're talking about driving, the caretaking, and obviously you're doing something to make these horses feel good. It's all about the TLC, but do you
Absolutely.
have a preference for a pacer or a trotter? Because I'm sensing it might be the latter.
I don't really have a preference for pacer or trotter, but I will tell you this, I do have a preference with gender. I do prefer studs, colts, and geldings over mares.
That's interesting. We had talked candidly before, and I had said I prefer like the end of the 3-year-old year going into the 4-year-old season when they've matured. Is there a certain age? Is there no real difference? I mean, can you handle a yearling when they're all over the place?
I'm all over the place.
But I mean, are you looking at breeding? I mean, are you possibly looking at investing with somebody and getting a broodmare and then actually having your own foals and raising them yourselves?
No. No, I do plan on maybe getting a few yearlings or something like that. But other than that, I don't think that I would really want to be on the breeding end of the business.
Yeah, it's pricey and it's a crapshoot. So let's talk about Sting Like a Bee.
So Sting Like a Bee is a really nice horse. I bought him, I think, like 2 to 3 months ago, and he's been really nice. He's a very consistent horse. He tries his heart out, and he's another one like Uptown Funk. The first time I sat behind him, I was amazed. He's so smooth going. He just does it naturally. He's probably the nicest horse I have in the barn to sit behind. He has a very kind mouth. He has a very kind way about him. I really like him, and it's a lot when you're 4 years old and still fits the non-winner classes at Yonkers. It's great to be in those classes every week, truly.
So, I guess, what about plans for the future? I mean, you're young, you're a hard worker, you're all over the place, you're doing several different things, you found your preference with breed and gender. I mean, what is your plan now with your stable? You got, 4 head now, or 5? I mean, what's the plan? Are you going to build it up?
Right now I have 4. Yeah, I do plan on building it up. I'm always looking for more. I'm always looking for claimers and stuff, so I'm just going to take it wherever it leads me.
And then I guess what's the optimal number in your barn? Would it be 10, 12 head?
Yeah, I would say about that. I wouldn't want to get too big too soon because I still feel like I'm learning. Every day you learn something new in this business, and I'd like to just take it day by day and not get, too ahead of myself.
And not to get personal or anything, but can I ask, do you have any kids?
Well, I do. I have Peanut and Petunia.
Wait, Peanut and Petunia? Wait, those? How'd you name your kids Peanut and Petunia? Oh, they're dogs. I'm sorry. So what's the story with the dogs? Do they come to the barn?
They come everywhere with me.
Wow.
They're so cute.
I mean, do you have goats at your barn? Do you have other animals running around that they play with, or they just run the show?
Well, there are other animals running around the farm, but these two run the show. One is sassier than the other.
And you said the farm, so you're not stabled on track. So can I ask where you're stabled at and, I guess, who you're around? I'm sorry?
I'm at Hot Lead in Allentown, New Jersey.
Hot Lead is what it's called?
Yeah, it used to be White Birch.
Gotcha. So they renamed it to, okay, I didn't know that. Excellent. Yeah. So I guess, we ask, is there anybody in the industry you want to give a special shout out to that's helped you in the industry, from the beginning when you first stepped on track, kind of brought you into the backside and showed you things, or anybody currently that you're, helping out with or working with?
I want to give a shout out definitely to Mike Russo because he was my first trainer and he was a big part of me getting into this and being a trainer. I definitely want to give a shout out to Mariana Monaco for contacting you about me. The list, it goes on, so I don't want to make this too long.
Well, like we said, we are doing something differently. It's all, horse person focused. We're going to have a great rest of the episode. I strongly recommend everybody to continue to listen. But, we really want to thank you for your insight and thank you for your time because it's just a different, fresh perspective for those that want to get into the business. And just somebody of your stature. I mean, look at you. You're a powerhouse, and you're only not even 5 feet. So, again, we really want to thank you for your time, and I really appreciate the candidness and the openness, and wish you the best of luck with your 4 horses and building your stable.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So we had a great interview with Nikki, and we've got the Wilder women next. But in between, we've got another unique horsewoman. Ashley, you there?
I'm here.
All right. So is it Ashley? Is it Ash? I mean, what do people call you on the track?
Honestly, they call me both. I never really liked the nickname Ash, but it seems to have taken over recently, so.
Well, everybody in the industry has nicknames. We're with Ashley Eldred, and if I could ask, what generation horsewoman are you?
I guess I would say second to my mom, but my family is very well known up in upstate New York. My stepfather, who raised me, is William Bailey, and his father was Jack Bailey, who was very well known as a trainer-driver in Vernon, and is in the Syracuse Hall of Fame.
So your, I guess, knowledge and skill set and what have you has been instilled from the upstate New York scene, aside from, I guess, the bigger tracks closer to New York City like Yonkers and what have you. So I guess how did you first delve into the industry? I mean, you said your stepfather.
Yeah, growing up, I, obviously had to go to the barn every day, and when I got done with school and help out and everything, and I never saw myself being in this business. I didn't really care for it, and I always thought I'd go and be a vet and do vet school, and I guess that took a turn because I never finished. I did start, and I never finished. And
so
then,
how many years did you go to vet school for then, if I can ask?
On and off for like 4 years.
And then did you get far, I guess, in that, degree, or were you just still taking the general ed courses? I mean, were you taking higher level courses?
Honestly, it was kind of just random courses that were going to go towards my degree, but I was always traveling, and, I moved to Florida and still did online classes that would work towards having my vet degree.
So when you went down to Florida, were you still dibbling and dabbling with the horses, or did you kind of step aside, or?
Yeah, I was. I was working for Dan Daly, and that was my first job, and it was hard. Everyone knows Dan Daly isn't easy to work for, but I'm very grateful. They were very good to me, and, it taught me a lot about hard work, and it makes everything seem a little easier now.
So you moved from basically, helping out as a kid in the shed row, after school, what have you. You get a little older, you move down to Florida, and now you've got this training from Dan. Where'd you go from there, from Florida?
I moved back to New York. I bounced around a bit. I worked, for a couple people here and there. I filled in. I helped my mom and dad. I was farm manager for Celebrity Farms for a bit, who had everything from brood mares to race horses and everything in between. And then, I had my one horse. He was my first horse, Ehi Guglione. And he was just a floor claimer at Monticello, but that's, I guess, where it started.
And you also do outriding, which we're going to get into. So I guess where did the foundation for outriding come into play?
I have no idea. I acquired Paco about 5 years ago. I bought him from a friend who got out of outriding. And I moved to Saratoga at that point when I bought him, and they had been talking about getting an outrider. And I thought maybe I would, mess with that. And I liked riding horses, and I loved the undersaddle, and so I figured I would try outriding. And it never worked out there, so I just recently took my first full-time job at Freehold Raceway last year.
So you're the outrider at Freehold. All the drivers, all the trainers, everybody knows you on the scene there. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So you're in that, I could say, subsect sorority of outriders. And I've asked this to, the upper echelon tier, if I can say. Is it like a sorority? I mean, are you guys critiquing each other, not in a bad way, but always looking and seeing what, you guys are doing, either on the track or when something happens, and giving each other support? Is it like a little sorority?
It is. The newer outriders, obviously, like myself, I know I go to Missy and Tia a lot, and, they've been very helpful, and I haven't worked hands-on with them, but anytime I have a question or concern or, want to just talk about something, they're always there for me.
So let's talk about your stable now. How many head do you have currently?
I believe I have 10. I'm not really sure, though.
Wow. So we will refer to you from Mariana Monaco. And for those who don't know, I'm going to say she's a professional golfer, because she is. She played at the collegiate level. But let me ask you, have you heard of the Horseman's Voice before Mariana? Or was this, I guess, the first inclination into our publication?
She was the first I heard of it when her interview came out, and then when she referred me.
So you had a piece come out with Harness Racing Update, and then we got in touch with you, but then you were featured more recently with Carly's new publication, Inside Harness. So now you've got the hat trick. I mean, this is going to be broadcast worldwide. What does it feel like to finally get a little exposure?
It's surreal. I mean, it's been a blessing. I've had a lot of people, even Julie Miller, reach out to me and congratulate me. And, a lot of people have seen my hard work lately. I'm traveling up and down the road. It's just my mom and I in the barn, and we're working hard, and it's really been paying off.
So let's talk about some of these horses. We've got Sir Jake, we've got Luger, we've got Knowles Mill, a lot of these winner circle pictures, but then you also have this first under saddle race, wire-to-wire victory. You want to talk about some of these pictures?
Travis Traversielster is his race name. He has been a blessing. I fell in love with him about 7 years ago when I was helping someone in Saratoga, and I ended up buying him for probably half of what he was actually worth, and he's just made money after money for me, and he was still competing at an open level when he retired last year by choice. He's just such a great horse, and he literally gave me everything that I have today. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be training horses still.
And what about Luger, an older horse, or Jake, Noah's Mill?
Noah's Mill gave me my first open win at Vernon last year. He's not my horse. He actually returned to a new trainer, his old trainer before me. I had him just to kind of rehab him back, and he was a great horse. He got me a lot of seconds and thirds at Yonkers and got my name out there. Lugar, I bought him for under saddle, and COVID hit, and we stopped having races to try to save our money because here in the United States we have to raise our purse money. We don't have betting on it yet, unfortunately. But he had some health issues, and he's really turned around this year, so I'm excited. He's missed a check out of, I believe, 7 starts, so he's been great even at 13. Sir Jake everyone knows him as my baby. He's a little hard to handle, and he's had a history of being bad, and he's probably everyone's favorite in the barn.
So let's talk about the home life. I mean, I see some shots here of you going trail riding with, if I could say it correctly, Eje Guaglione, and then we've got a broodmare with a baby. Are you living, I guess, on a farm, I guess? It looks like on the side of a mountain in upstate New York.
Yeah, we live, everyone calls it the Sticks. We're about 45 minutes away from Vernon Downs. That's the family farm. And Ehi was my first race horse that I owned and trained, and he is now retired with me. And he's great with the kids, with other horses, to ride, everything. It's really a break away from everything, just to get away and ride.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, just from the regime in the morning and training, and you're stabled at the track, I'm assuming, or where are you stabled? Yep. You're stabled at the track. And then what about this broodmare in this foal? It looks like a chestnut coming out of a gray horse?
Yeah, we don't really know what color she's going to be, because her belly and her legs are all kind of gray, but she looks almost red. She was the mare I bought as a birthday gift to myself a couple years ago. I bred her to So Surreal. I loved the Sun Beach Somewheres. So she was almost a perfect match, and everything went smooth. This is my first homebred baby. She's great. She's really big. She's healthy. She's smart. She's already pacing three-legged at 6 weeks old.
Wow.
And she is actually a month in full to So Surreal again.
Wow.
So
right back at you. I mean, you're just getting to all facets of the industry. You want to just quickly, before we end here, you want to just give us a typical day in the life of an Ashley Eldred, up and coming with 10 head, with, a home barn, and you've got, turnouts, I'm sure, at home, and you trail ride. I mean, what's a typical day like for you?
Crazy. My weeks are, quiet, go to the barn, and my mom and I train together, and we work well together, and then, go home, do the home life, spend time with my little baby, and weekends I spend on the road down at Freehold, racing Meadowlands, out riding. It's hard, it's a lot, but I could not imagine it any other way.
So you just love what you do like everybody else. So besides, I guess, Dan Daly, besides, I guess, your stepdad and your mom helping out, is there anybody in the industry you want to give a special shout-out to?
I mean, there's so many of them. Everyone's been a blessing. Norm Desrow, who you can see in my pictures, I wear his colors under saddle. And he recently passed away. He was like a second father to me.
Wow. And
that is also the guy that gave me Traverse Sealster for a very, very good price. And, helped me start up. And
it's just snowballed since then. I mean, look at you today. I mean, you're up and coming. Everybody's talking about you. We see you everywhere. I can't imagine the mileage on your vehicle, let alone on some of these trail horses. But we really want to thank you for your time. We really appreciate the interview. We appreciate Mariana giving the recommendation. We're going to tap into you for some people in the future and just keep expanding on the sport. But again, we really appreciate your time, Ashley.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we had some great interviews once again with some amazing horsewomen. One that's literally just gotten into the industry, and look what she's doing. She's 4'11". Imagine her standing next to a horse, and Ashley as well. I mean, you've got these horsewomen, but again, we've got multi-generational families in this industry. And we had a referral, and I think we've got some women on the line. We've got 3 this time. If I could say the wilder women, literally. I mean, you're all of age. Heather, you were referred. What's going on? It's just an afternoon, I guess, after a full day. It's a little bit after 4 o'clock.
Yeah, basically we just, our day started early, about 5:30. Scarlett's in charge of the farm, feeding and stuff. Mike and I were at the barn. He's racing currently, and Lauren has just gotten home, finishing out her senior year of high school, so her job is the chores tonight, so, so all horses all the time.
Okay, so we've got Heather Wilder. You are a 4th generation on both your mother and father's side, and we've got Scarlett and Lauren. Is that right, or are you 3rd?
Yeah, they're so I'm 3rd, and Scarlett and Lauren are 4th.
Okay.
Generation.
So, on your father's side, it's kind of 4th, and we'll get into that. But first interaction with the Wilder, and I really didn't know much about the Altmaier family back then, was with your husband Mike. And at the time, I think you had just had Scarlett, if not maybe Lauren as well, if it was 02, 03. So, the question is now, let's start with the Altmaier, and let's start with your mom's side.
Yes, that's the Rankin side. So that's the Ohio side, the Buckeye side competing against the Pennsylvania side of my dad, which is the Altmaier side.
So the question is, who had a bigger influence with you growing up, or were you just intertwined on both sides?
I think, intertwined, of course, with both, but the Rankin side, I spent a lot of time with in Ohio and at the family farm, and had a very close relationship with uncles on both sides, with my Uncle Dave and my Uncle Terry Altmaier and my Uncle Dave Rankin. But I probably spent more time, more hours with the Rankin side, learning and seeing their way of conditioning and developing horses.
So then you basically, emigrated into the Pennsylvania side, which would be the Altmaier side.
Mm-hmm.
So was it more when you moved to PA and began spending time with Mike? Did you guys start dating?
No, I was living here in Pennsylvania, and I moved to Ohio because I got an internship with public relations for Ann Doolin in the Scioto Downs race office, and I worked for Stacy Cahill as well on the race office side.
So you met Mike in Ohio?
Yes, I went to Ohio.
Oh, I see now. Okay, I'm confused now. Okay, but you're living in Pennsylvania. So then, what made the move? Was the move to Pennsylvania later? Then you guys grew up in Ohio?
No, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I moved to Ohio for a job after college, and then we moved back together. Got it.
And then you had the girls, and then Mike's career started to take off. He's kind of in that, I'm in the lost generation, so if I could ask, how old is Mike?
He's 49. He just turned 49.
I just turned 50. We're in that lost generation. I've had those conversations with him. It's like, he knows the guys on the Chicago circuit because there's not many of us. Mm-hmm. So, talk about, I guess, him being a driver at that age in the early 2000s and you raising the girls. What was going on back then? And girls, chime in. We've got shots of you guys when you were little. There's one here with one of you with your dad holding a whip over your head. Who's the guy Who's the redhead? That's the question.
That would be me, actually. Everyone thinks that it's Lauren, but that was me very young in Lexington. We used to be able to go because Pap would go down there to buy horses every year and race horses. So we had the opportunity a few times while we were young to go down there and get to spend quite a good bit amount of time with the family down there, watching the horses race, going to sales, going to dinners, and doing that kind of stuff.
Okay, so there's another shot here in the wintertime. Who's on top? Who's on the bottom? Whose colors are you wearing?
So I would be in my dad's colors, and my sister would be in my mom's colors. And that was like our biggest thing we wanted when we were kids. We wanted their colors to be our snowsuits.
I mean, were you switching colors, or would you guys pick sides? Were you just...
They picked sides. Don't let them get you. Scarlett's always been a daddy's girl.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've always had dad's colors and everything. And that first started when I was really, really little. I had them from the time I was probably like 4 or 5 that I would just wear around constantly and never take them off.
But now I've got a shot here with the both of you in one picture. It looks like a Palomino and then some type of a bay horse. You literally both look like twins. We've got a redhead on the left and a bleach blonde on the right. I mean, who's who? What's this pick? How'd you guys place? There's 2 ribbons on one horse, one on the other.
That was the All-American Youth Show. Scarlett was the one with the red horse, and she was wearing the green, and I was on the Palomino wearing the blue, and we both did very well, actually, that day. She was reserve champion in barrel racing and pole bending, and I placed second in barrel racing.
So were you guys involved with, like, FFA growing up? Were you exposed to, like this, to other breeds? Were you doing everything? Were you just doing standardbreds? I mean, what were you guys doing?
We participated in 4-H. We also participated in IBRA. Scarlett definitely went a lot farther and was very successful in her barrel racing. She went to Vegas and competed. But we did a lot of things when we were younger. We did Western Pleasure and English. We did standardbred, so we have literally seen every type of thing you could do with horses.
Okay, so Heather, I mean, you're the one that's introducing them to everything they've just said, right? So
yes.
Were you doing these things also on the Rankin side or on the Altmaier side or both? I mean...
Yeah, both. We were very involved. My grandpa Rankin had a very large farm, and he kind of turned us loose. So myself and my sister and my cousins, we had 4-wheelers, and we had tons of horses that we were allowed to do whatever we wanted with. So we could jump on their back, and we could take the 4-wheeler and get lost in the woods all day. And it was a really great life growing up. And I wanted the kids to experience that. But I also learned a lot about that time, hard work and being tough and learning to handle situations on your own. So I think in the beginning, people thought that maybe we were a little too hard on the girls, because I remember once when they would come to the racehorse stable with us and they wanted to jog and they wanted to get the horses ready. And I told them, you can jog when you can get the jog cart down and hook it to the horse.
Wow.
And they stood there. The one time Scarlett stood there for probably 30 minutes, and people kept trying to help her. And I said, if you get help, you don't get to jog the horse. And she finally, after 30, and I know people thought I was the meanest person in the world, but I can tell you this kid can saddle her horse, drive it across the country, paddock multiple horses, do it. She can do everything. And I think that we instilled that in a young age, that if you want to do it, you got to do it yourself.
Exactly. What about this shot? Who is this standing on this? Is this another Palomino or just a white horse with their arms to the side like a diva?
That was our little pony, Sunny Sue. She was, we were still kind of having fun with her, taking her on trail rides, and she got a little bit into barrel racing as well. She's a all-around horse. Everybody could ride her. But that picture was taken up at my grandparents' house, also on the same property as us. And I've always been a daredevil, so I said, hey, take a picture of me. And I stood up on her back. She was totally bomb-proof.
So then, what's this shot here? Somebody sitting on this beautiful, another bay horse. I guess the other one was a chestnut, I apologize. But this bay horse with the 4 white socks, is that at the same place, or is this just in another farm, or?
Yeah, that was actually here in the front yard. I had Mom take pictures of me. I definitely was more into riding the racehorses than Lauren was. But that would be Make a Success. He was my pap's first world champion at 2. He got his track record at Northfield he had set, and then he set his world record at Poconos. And we ended up getting him back around the age of 11 or 12. And when he came back, we started breaking him to ride. Mom was the first one to break him, and then from then on, we kind of just would take him on trail rides and teach him new things. I actually, at one point, he was one of my barrel horses, I guess you could say. I had trained him. He could pick up the canter, and he knew how to switch his leads. He was actually pretty good at it, and my dad could take him out on trail rides, everything.
So this is a retired standardbred you guys have at the house.
Yes.
And he's basically he's saddle broken. Wait, so Heather, how many horses do you guys have at the house?
At the house currently there's a retired group of 6. So 5 retired racehorses and Scarlett's retired barrel horse who has just started back competing in what's called Pee-wee classes with another horseman, Emily Hay from Ohio. Her son is now riding Roland.
Colton, I know Colton. Yeah, I did an interview with Emily in the past, and she's tight with Junior, who I go back with Sarah and Junior from Chicago. I mean, it's just amazing how everybody's intertwined, but everybody's kids too. And we talked about Colton with with their daughter. I mean, it's just amazing with the multi-generations. And I mean, girls, all your friends. I mean, how many more friends do you guys have in the industry that are still around at your age? I guess from the track and racing. There's a lot, isn't there? There's a group of you.
I would say there's about 3 or 4 of us,
That's
kind of around our age. I think I'm the oldest out of them.
Really?
But that's just at the Meadows. We have friends everywhere. We have Ohio friends because, we go there every year, especially in the summers. And like you said, we're all intertwined. We've all grown up together. We're like a family.
Okay, so you guys are so close in age, so you're kind of like, twins in a sense, but one looks one way and one looks the other. So let me ask you this. You have the same friends, basically.
Yes, very much so.
How many people, and then what ages would you say, Scarlett, because you're older, would you say from 21 to maybe 17, or maybe Lauren's age, maybe 18 to 22 maybe? Is there a group that you can say on the national level that you guys are all tight and you guys all grew up at the same time on the national circuit? Because your dad would travel. I don't know if you guys would travel with him sometimes. Heather, you might take them with, or I don't know.
Yeah, I took them everywhere, and I think they're kind of struggling to think, because I think that they consider their friends.
Lauren definitely has more friends than me.
Lauren,
I would say I have friends that are younger than me, because I talk to everybody. And I definitely have friends that are older than me, maybe 30.
But would you say there's a generation that you can pinpoint, or is it just there's multiple groups and people bounce around? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the current generation. And talking to Nikki, who's 22, she's out east at the Meds, and she's in the A leagues, if we could say. But, Mike goes out to the Meds, and if you guys go out there, you can meet her and say, hey, we were on that video with you. We were at the tail end, in the beginning. And then you might meet Ashley, and then Marianne. Then it kind of expands that network. And that's what I'm talking about,
Yes.
trying to get that new demographic, and then using social media, like PR tools. Heather, what are you doing currently as far as PR?
I use social media a lot. The kids use social media. And those young women that you've talked about, we actually have not crossed paths with yet. But I think that when we do, in this sport, I feel like, and the girls will agree, it's very common to walk up and be like, hey, I saw you on Facebook. And I feel like it is very much, like Lauren said, a family, whereas you don't necessarily have to have been introduced or things like that, but you just know know people. So I think it's great. And I think PR-wise, the social media aspect is huge. There's different platforms and different things, and it's a great way when everyone says that there's no youth in harness racing, and I understand that that's probably they're talking about fans, a decline in fans, but I can tell you the kids that are involved, the youth of harness racing, even in that 30 and under demographic,
Exactly.
Strong. I think it's very strong. They're interested and they're participating.
So, girls, what are you guys using, if I can ask? And I should call you the Wilder women, but I'm going to say girls. But what are you guys using with social media? Are you using TikTok? Is it working? Is it getting out there? Are you using, Instagram? Are you using, other social platforms besides the typical Facebook, Twitter? What is your demographic? What are you guys using right now to kind of promote the sport yourselves? I mean, you're learning stuff from your mom, seeing what she's doing, and you're doing stuff on your own. You know what I mean? What do you guys do to promote the sport yourselves?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. We definitely do use TikTok. I think I use it for the horses more than Lauren does, just even if it's horses in our stable. And then as well, I use Facebook like everyone does, and then Instagram and Snapchat too. But I definitely have more, I would say, harness racing friends on Facebook than I do anywhere else. But I definitely share from the other platforms onto there too.
Gotcha.
I agree with Scarlett on all those social media accounts.
You sound like her attorney. So let's talk about the competition between you guys. We haven't really got into it. So I've got some individual shots now. I think it's the same contest, maybe not, maybe the same horse. And again, it looks like a younger version of somebody with the paint. Or is that a Palomino? No, I'm sorry. There's a Palomino, and then is it the same chestnut?
It possibly could be. Yeah, those were our main barrel horses at the time.
Okay, so you both did barrel racing, but
yes.
Scarlett, you went to Vegas, and that's that shot here, the professional shot that we have here, right?
Well, that professional shot by Chris Gooden, that was down at an arena here near home, but that was only about a month before I left for Vegas.
Gotcha.
We had both competed in barrel racing for a lot of years, but Lauren eventually had gone away from that, decided to go more the sports route, and
she was singing. She did national anthems all over.
Really?
Yeah, racer. She did a Breeders' Crown. I'm very proud. Oh, and she sang in Ireland too. But she got to do the Breeders' Crown at the Meadowlands and sang both the Canadian and United States national anthem. I thought it was great.
Well, we'll say this. We don't have those pictures. And if you're looking at the pictures now, we got them after the fact. So let's jump into some of these win shots. Some of Mike's bigger things in his career. There's a couple of headshots here. There's this beautiful shot. It looks like it's been touched up with Photoshop. You want to talk about some of his bigger wins, Heather, than some of his current ones with the girls in the pictures?
Yeah, sure. Some of those pictures that they sent in, the one's the Adios, the other one is a jug elimination. The girls have always been their dad's biggest fan, and they both, they travel with us, they're watching, they both have, couple different racing network accounts. And sometimes I catch them watching 2 different tracks at a time. They're very into the sport, and competitive wise, when you want to talk about competitive, I don't know where they got it from, but both girls have been on a roll their entire life, and both girls are now in the medical field, so that gives them a little. Scarlett went to Vegas, but Scarlett's going to be a nurse. Lauren did national anthems all over, but now she's going to go to be the doctor. She's going to go to Penn State and then to med school. So
Wait a second, girls. So who's it? What, UNLV nursing school?
No. Scarlett was in Vegas riding, but she's now in nursing school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where are you going to school, Scarlett? Okay, I was just confused there. She said you went to Vegas. Where are you going to school right now, then? Because your sister's going to start at Penn State. We'll get into that next.
I go to an accelerated program through the Washington Hospital here, and it's a 16-month program. I'll be finished in August of 2022.
And then you'll get like a certificate or a degree, and then you can go into the next program then?
No, it's you're a full RN by the time you graduate.
And then what are your plans after that?
I'm not too sure yet. I don't know if I'll go on to get my bachelor's after that or not. My plan with getting my nursing degree and everything was so that I would still have time for my horses too, because the horses are always going to be number one, but I definitely need a degree, and it's showed me a lot during COVID-19 and everything, how you need to have an essential job, because in this business, all these tracks shut down, and the drivers weren't making any money. The trainers were, blacksmiths, vets, the people that you need to use all the time.
You're absolutely right.
Everyone's always going to need nurses, so I can have and do everything I need to do there. But if something were to happen, or I just decided I wanted more money or anything like that, I would just go right back to the nursing.
Well, you'd have something big to fall back on, and that's something that I was told, actually, coming back on the backside after traveling. Somebody had walked up to me, and this person knows who she is, and she said, Eric, always have something to fall back on. Always have like another, I don't want to say like revenue stream, but have something to fall back on, and that's brilliant. You're doing that. And then Lauren, I guess, did you kind of want to do what Scarlett was doing and continue that competition between you, or was it just a natural to get into it as well?
Kind of. So before freshman year, I wanted to be a marine biologist, but then I really pushed myself because Scarlett was getting better grades than me, and I thought I got to step it up for high school. So I started getting better grades than her, or we'd be going back and forth, or be pretty tied up. And my aunt and uncle are both doctors, so they really sparked my interest with caring for people, and I've shadowed them and everything like that, and I just really love the atmosphere. So I'm excited to attend Penn State and start my long journey to becoming a doctor.
So you're going to do everything. It's going to be, you're talking, what are they saying, 13, 14 years?
I'm thinking 11 to 13. It just kind of depends on what I pick. I'm thinking pediatric surgeon right now because I work very with children.
Wow.
But we'll see. We have some time to figure it out.
Wow. That's amazing. And Heather, you're probably so proud, and Mike too. And I want to give a shout out to Mike. I've always liked him. We've always had candid conversations. We were around the same age. I guess I'm older than you, man. I'm sorry. But speaking of shout outs, is there any shout outs, each of you and anybody wants to give out to anybody in the industry? Heather, we'll start with you, and then girls, if you want to chime in after your mom. Anybody that's helped you guys in the industry to get you, I guess, where you are today?
Oh my gosh, I respect so many women in the industry, and I would not want to single one out because I have to say some of the people that I absolutely admire and think so much of have become my friends, and I don't want, the girls are fighting. What do they want? What do you want? Say what you have to say.
I want to go first, and I want to say that I give my mom the full credit.
The competitive nature and spirit between the two of you, let alone the three of you.
They're fighting. Since you want to give mom the credit, I'm going to go ahead and give grandma credit.
So it's like just tenacity. I could just feel it. And it's what's great about this is after I finish this, I have to edit it, take all the pictures, and it's 40 pictures. It's a lot of work, and I can't wait to do it. But then you have to write this paragraph, and you're kind of limited for space, especially on LinkedIn. So it's like if I have to do adjectives, just listening to this and just thinking of this offhand, it's just the tenacity, the competitiveness, the grit, just the spirit, and probably just the downright love that you guys have for each other. You can't compete with that. And the bonds that you guys have, even though you hate each other, you still love each other at the end of the day. You rub each other's backs, you scratch each other. That's just the love that you share between the three of you. But I could just see when the two of you, girls, when you're older, you're just going to look back at this and you're going to laugh, and you're going to have your mom's grandkids, and it's just the tradition is going to continue, and that's the love of the sport that we have, and it's just going to be beautiful to see the children you have, and your mom spoiling those kids, and just the legacy continues. So with that, I want to end this episode and really thank the three of you for doing this. This was new to us, doing three people at once, but it just shows, like I said, the love of the sport and just the love that we have, and just, you know, just for the beauty of the horses. So I want to thank the three of you again, once again.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Eric.
Yep.